Today we're going to talk about modulating the intensity of a request that we are making. Modulating intensity refers to how strongly we request for something from someone else, or how much intensity we are using when we do that. You want to make requests with enough urgency to convey an appropriate level of importance and urgency. And you also want to be mindful of the other person's level of vulnerability at the time. Let's start. Modulating intensity. Step 1. Level of urgency of your need. First, try to become mindful of how urgent you feel that need is. If you have the time during the conversation, try to cognitively put a number from 0 to 100. Does your request refer to something that you have to do right away, or is it something that is not that urgent? How important is your request? Do you feel like you can be flexible with your request or not? Think about a recent situation where you had a certain request and try to remember how urgent your need was. Then, write your answers in the worksheet. Step 2. Level of vulnerability. The second step is about becoming mindful of the level of vulnerability that the other person or the relationship has in the situation. This refers to the wider context of the situation, how the other person feels, and what their individual experience is. For example, maybe they had a really stressful day and they may not be able to do something that you asked them to, especially if your request is not that urgent in the moment. This doesn't mean that you shouldn't communicate your need, but to simply take both your and the other person's needs in consideration. Think about the situation from the previous step. Can you remember the level of vulnerability of the other person or the relationship? Take your time and try to put a number from 0 to 100 to evaluate it. Step 3. Adjusting the level of intensity. After evaluating the level of urgency of your need and the level of vulnerability the other person has, you can adjust how strongly you ask for your request. Would you change the level of intensity you usually practice when you are making a request? Think of the situation from the previous 2 steps. Try to remember how intensely you asked for something based on the need you had. Would you ask in a different way now that you become mindful of the previous 2 steps? Note that the point of this exercise is to try to implement this technique in your day-to-day life if you feel like you can benefit from it. Pause the video and try to answer the questions in the worksheet. Great job! I hope that you feel like this technique is something that you can practically use and that you found it helpful. This was the exercise, Modulating Intensity. See you in the next video. Thank you for joining us.